ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 30th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin Dowe, and I'll be guiding the conversation this evening. Thank you so very much, as I start always, for joining us and sharing part of your Monday evening with us. So whether you're at home looking at GBN television, listening on the GBN radio, or any of our social media platforms, thank you for being a part of this evening's discussions. And we are taking on a topic that has been quite troubling in general, but certainly raising its head in recent times, referring to the what seems to be the prevalence of missing teens and child abuse. And I have two ladies here with me who unfortunately have to deal with this challenge. Good evening, ladies, and welcome. And I will ask you to introduce yourselves and your portfolios.
Good evening to you, Mr. Dowe, and good evening to the viewing and listening public. I am Maureen John, an Inspector of Police. I am currently attached to the Community Relations Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Welcome, Inspector John.
Thank you.
All right. Serena?
Good evening, Mr. Dowe, and to the listening public. I thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Sabrina Sanderson Plenty. I am presently attached with the Child Protection Authority as a Child Protection Officer.
Okay. I like speaking of happy topics. This is not necessarily one of those, but we have to take it on. And Inspector, let me just start off with you. There seem to have been several reports in recent times about missing teens. Can you give an indication as to what is the prevalence, what has been the prevalence for 2024, if you have any raw data?
For the year 2024 so far, we have seen 38 such cases, not necessarily teens, but children.
Okay.
So it's not just teens in that 38, but children generally. So that's what our figures look like so far for 2024. And it is just a little above what we saw for this period in 2023.
Okay, so essentially we're holding steady, but 38 missing children is 38 missing children.
Yes.
Okay, I'm hoping for some good news here. Are these children normally found?
Generally, yes.
Generally found?
Almost 100%, I can say. These children are usually found. There is hardly a case that comes to my mind now where a child has not been found.
Okay. And how are they found? Is it through public assistance? They're just returning home? Is it some investigations by the RGBF? How do we find these children?
I would say it's a combination of these factors, mainly through public assistance. In particular, social media. Okay. and the media in general. So once these children are posted as missing on social media, or there's a hue and cry about it on the media, generally persons would say, well, I can tell you where this child is, or I've seen this child, or sometimes they themselves, seeing themselves out there, they turn themselves in, they go back home.
We never hear when they're found, unfortunately. So there's a blow up on the media, on social media, saying that this child is missing. But we never get the end of the story. Where are they?
There usually is an end to the story. Once they're found, our department in particular will put out a release saying that, thank you to the public, thank you to the media, this child has been found and reunited with their family, as the case may be. Mm-hmm. So, I think what happens is that when they're found, there isn't so much of a...
There's no big news.
No big news there. Oh, because I think, too, it has become kind of normal behavior, especially in the way it is treated by our populace. Mm-hmm. It has become kind of normal behavior. Oh, another one gone again, they're going to come back. Mm-hmm. So it's treated like that by lots of persons.
So there's a complacency, you believe?
Yeah. If you see the comments on social media and so on, it indicates that that's the way people think about the situation. Another one is gone. When you post her up, she will come back.
Okay. Where do we end up? In general, and I heard the side. I heard that side.
So many places. Mm-hmm. The houses of friends, the blocks, sometimes, unfortunately. places where they're not supposed to be, where there's adult entertainment and so on. And I think we're going to come to why they leave at some point. But these are some of the places that they end up. The homes of their peers where there is little or no parental supervision or guidance. Some place that they wanted to go that they didn't have permission to go to. These are the sort of places that they end up. And as I said, unfortunately, some of them end up on the blocks.
Okay. I am worried because quite often when I hear one of these announcements coming from the RGBF or on social media, the child seems to have been missing for days. What is the protocol on reporting? I know, probably like in the US, they say you can't report someone missing unless they are not being seen for 48 hours. Is that 48-hour protocol same for a child?
No, not for us. Once a child is reported missing, we start taking action because so many things can happen within 48 hours. So what happens sometimes, we are able to do a press release when we get the information, one, and of course sometimes too, there are preliminary investigations that are carried out before you do a blast, before you do a social media post that this child is missing. So in collaboration with family members, the police will do checks, preliminary checks. Where was the person last seen? Who were they last seen with? When was the last time you saw maybe they posted something on social media? All those preliminary things are going to be done. Searches are going to be carried out before we say, well, okay, it's time so we could allot persons so that we can get the assistance of the public to locate this person.
Okay. Sabrina?
Could I just add something to that?
Go ahead.
I know lots of persons share the same concern that sometimes when you see the press release, it's because the person has been missing for days. You have to understand too that there are some families who are very reluctant for the general public to know that their teenager is missing, that their child is missing, especially in the case of girls with all the stigma that is attached to it. The things that are said by persons on social media in particular about that young person when they go missing. So there are family members who are very reluctant. They will even tell you, please don't post them up.
Okay.
Please don't put it out there that they are missing. Let us deal with it privately.
So let me get on like one of the people on social media here now, Sabrina. Are these teens missing or are they running away?
It's a combination of both. But at the same time, it comes down to missing. Because once a child is not seen by their primary caregiver and in their primary place of abode within a normal routine of time, especially as Inspector rightly said, we don't wait for 48 hours anymore because anything can happen.
Right.
But once you notice any abnormalities in the child's behavior and in the return pattern and she's not back or he's not back at a particular time, you alert the relevant authorities. So oftentimes, because again of social media and certain things that are placed out there, persons are reluctant in actually taking those cases serious because they believe in all cases the children are running away and they're not necessarily missing.
Okay. Have we, of the 38 cases, for example, have cases of children being abducted among the 38 cases that you're aware of for this year?
No, none that I'm aware of. We had a child being abducted. If that were the case, it would have been more than just a missing child,
right,
whatever the case may be.
We have conversations of kidnapping, but
yes,
but you first must have to find the child to realize
yes,
that it was not kidnapping, but rather the child of their own volition going absconding, as you say, from home.
But we can say too, though, that there are some of them who are lured away by persons who are adults. They're lured away from home for various reasons.
And that is what, I mean, and Sabrina, you certainly can come in whenever you like, but because one of the things that I would certainly like to know from your own expertise, what are they running from? Because if it's a case where you're lured or you're choosing to leave home, I have two questions. Let us focus on what they're running from first, and then I certainly want to get to what they're running to. but the from. What are they generally running from? Sabrina?
Okay, so it has a lot of things that takes place in the home, and oftentimes when we see the behavior patterns of children, it reflects that on the family. And many of these children have a lot of different issues that they're dealing with. They have a lot of challenges that they face on a daily basis. In the home conditions, some of them, they have low socioeconomic standards. So there are many homes, especially in Grenada, we know that a lot of the homes are mainly matrifocal, meaning that it's women-led, and it's usually single-parent homes. And because of that, a lot of these females, they tend to follow the trend. So I don't have certain things, a mom don't have enough finances to accommodate me in, for example, the spray ground bag, which is popular now. There are also cases where it is that children are being abused at home. And in a cry for help or in a cry for attention, they leave that situation and they go towards an environment that they believe can better accommodate them. We also have cases where it is the pressure from friends and family. So because some parents may be strict and in terms of discipline and certain privileges that they would accommodate for their children, some children leave those environments in order to have a more accommodating lifestyle that is allowed by some other family members, because some of the times when they leave home, they also go into other adults' home and the adults accommodate them. They do not reach out to the authorities, they do not reach out to the other parents to say, Jane is at my home, are you aware of it? Do you know that Joy is here? So we have a lot of cases like that, but each situation is different. Sometimes it may have similarities, but each child faces different challenges. It doesn't matter what it may seem like on the outside, but there are a lot of different things that are taking place in the minds of the children, in their homes, and different things that they're dealing with on an individual level when they go to school, in the community. There are a lot of challenges that children face, and oftentimes it is overlooked by the wider population. And because social media is such a big thing now, when you read some of these comments, it can be daunting, some can be empowering, but the majority that is seen is very daunting. So when children are faced in situations where it is that their back are against the wall or they feel pressured and they don't know what to do, they do what they know what's best, leave the environment without reaching out for help, because if I reach out for help, I would be shunned.
Right. Inspector, we're hearing that a child would leave home, go into another adult's house, and the adult does not report to the parent or consult with the parent saying, Joy is here or Johnny is here, has been here for the last 2 days. Are there any consequences for this, or what would you want to say to adults who are faced with this situation? Because I can very well imagine, based on what Sabrina was saying, is that the child makes up a story in those cases. So would make believe that mommy gave me permission to come and they're with a friend in some cases. But what would you say to adults who are faced with the situation of a youngster showing up at their homes saying that mom said it was all right or dad said it was fine?
And this is what I was alluding to earlier, that some of them, they go to places where there is little or no parental guidance or supervision. What type of parent would accommodate a case like that without making checks, without at least trying to find out from one other person whether or not the child's story checks out? The consequences are very specific. The cases for which there are consequences by law are very specific. So there are certain factors that have to add up in a case like that, where there are consequences according to law. But I want parents to think about it. Put yourself in another parent's shoe. Your child just doesn't turn up home one day. You have no clue where the child is. Your mind is going in 100 different directions trying to figure out where your child is. Wouldn't you be happy if somebody else calls you and says, listen, your child came to my house, she came with my daughter, or she came with my son, I just want you to know if they had permission to be here, or I just want you to know that the child is here. Think about how much that does for a parent who is looking out for their child. But unfortunately, we have those cases where and as Ms. Plenty rightly said, the children go into other persons' homes and nobody says anything. The child is allowed to abide there, becomes a part of the family sometimes. I've seen it happen. It's like the child becomes a part of the family.
So you're saying not 1 day or 2 days, is this longer than that?
No. And sometimes because there is no public outcry, because there is nothing that says that this child is missing, this child continues to abide there until such time.
Okay.
And we, especially in the case of child sexual abuse, where a child is harbored in a dwelling house for the purpose of sexual intercourse, then of course there are huge consequences according to law. That person can be charged and taken to court for a case like that. So the onus is on the parents and the adults in these situations. In some of the cases, the adults are not parents.
And that's actually what's going to be my next question. Is it homes where big sister is in charge or big brother is in charge because mom and dad may have split up and mommy is in New York someplace?
Sometimes it's just not children, but teenagers themselves, because we know we cut children off, right? Once you're not over the age of 18, you're a child.
Right. So
sometimes it's 18 and 19-year-olds running a house.
Okay.
So you could only imagine what can happen there.
Right. We addressed what they were running from. We said abuse, discipline, the frustrations of being hovered over and smothered. It might be parental love, but that's all.
Sorry to interject, but just to add, it can also be the pressure from the parents as well, or the guardians. Because in some cases, what you may find is the parents or the guardians are encouraging these young persons to provide and to provide basically finances and different grocery items and stuff for the home. If the child is going to school, where is the child going to find those things?
Well, so let's plain talk bad manners. I'm going to use some colloquialism here, forgive me. Are you suggesting that some parents pimp their children? Because if you're telling me a child of school age who's attending school is expected to provide groceries for the home, and you ask the question, where would the child get it from? So is either the child go find a job, which is the parent's responsibility, or there are other means that the child will use, unfortunately, to get the things to provide for the home?
Yes, unfortunately, there are those cases here. There are those cases in Grenada. And it's sad, but that is some of the realities that some teens face. And that's why you see also an increase in teenage pregnancy and an increase in the STIs and STDs on the island, especially among the teenage girls and the teenage boys, because they are forced to take on a responsibility that they're not supposed to. They are forced to take on responsibility and be exposed to different lifestyle and life challenges that they are really not cut out for because they're still children. And when you put them in those situations, their reactions would be that of an adult. So sometimes we see those teens and we might say, oh, he rude, he disrespectful, I don't want to have nothing to do with her, given the behaviors that we see. But where those behavior comes from, where does it stem from, what influences that? And this sometimes as a society and as individuals, we also need to take a step back and redefine our thoughts. Rather than always thinking the negative impact or the negative attributes that a child may possess or display, try to figure out what is going on with that child.
So rather than being judgmental, ask why.
Exactly.
Okay. But how do we get here? How can a home get to the position where the parent is sending the child out to do things that are not on the up and up, to bring groceries and bring things home? How do we arrive there?
You see, there is a saying in society, when children make children, we have a lot of children behaviors. So in some cases, we have a lot of broken homes. And a lot of these broken homes are created by broken individuals. Broken in the terms of there are a lot of traumatic experiences that these parents would have faced in their childhood and teenage years that they have not dealt with. The past traumas has not been addressed. And because they have not been addressed, when they themselves start their own family, it continues and it creates a
Let me
cycle.
ask this, are they starting a family or they get pregnant?
Well, it happens both ways. They get pregnant and the family starts.
Okay, because I know you see the difference here, because if it's unplanned, one is unprepared to have a child and then to raise a child, then I'm asking whether that is the reason why we see some of the fallouts that we see.
Of course, and I always advocate that that's one of the discussions that we need to have. How do children come into being in the first place in this country? There's no planning, I wasn't prepared for that. It's always almost a case where a couple just having fun. And I like to use this example, and persons who've heard me speak before may have heard me say that before too, but it is a reality. I've seen it one too many times. So a guy goes out to a function, he meets a girl. That's the first time he's meeting the girl. Something about the girl attracts him. The next thing you know, they're in bed. The next thing you know, there is a child. He is never to be seen again. This mother who didn't go out there to have a baby now has a baby who is going to grow into a toddler and into a teenager and into an adult. And this mother is not prepared to deal with this situation. You ask her, who is the guy? And she doesn't know. We have cases like that here in Grenada. What does she do? She becomes frustrated. Who does she take out the frustration on? The child. What kind of guidance? Where is the love that will be poured out upon this child? And we have too many situations like this where people just have sex and have children and don't think about the consequences and don't think about the fact there are a lot of young ladies who tell you they want a baby and they don't realize that this baby is not going to stay a baby. This baby is going to grow up, and this baby is a big responsibility.
And you can't return the baby. You get a baby, and you're stuck with the baby.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And some of them are forced themselves to do things that are not proper, are not moral, to help to raise this child, to help to feed this child and everything. And as Ms. Plenty said, it becomes a cycle of behavior. And the child grows up and the child learns that same behavior. And the thing about it is some of them learn it way young. As teenagers, they learn those types of behavior, that's the way to get money, that's the way to live and get all your needs met.
Let me ask two questions, because I'm going to take you up on that. But just to start, how do we hold these men accountable? Because it seems two teenagers go out, they're attracted to each other, they have fun, they have pleasure, and one gets stuck with a child. And the other one seems to disappear, to rinse and repeat, because invariably that male, I was about to say gentleman, but that male will do the same thing again. How do we hold these men accountable? What do we have, whether within the CPA, within the laws, etc., in order to hold these youngsters accountable? Well, or all men, it doesn't matter.
I must first say this. A breakdown in the family reflects on a breakdown in society. And this is what we're dealing with now. A breakdown in societal norms and values. And in turn, what is happening is that the cases are increasing and the cycles continue. And as you rightly asked, how do we hold persons accountable? Now, before time, we always heard it takes a community, a village to raise a child. Time has passed now where the village has shrunk to one in some cases. And I believe first and foremost that parents should take back that mantle which is given to them. Because before that young man, which is a teenager, he was once a child as well. And no young man that is grown and is raised by a family that is respectable, would just impregnate a young lady and abandon his child like that. It also shows that this young man would have had past traumas and past challenges that he himself would have had to face that would have caused him to be making such poor decisions. And oftentimes, when you do the backstory of these young men, these are young men without a father figure in their lives. These are young men that don't
But shouldn't that tell you something? If mommy alone raised you, you watch mommy struggle to raise you, you're going to go out there, get a young lady pregnant and turn your back on her so that she can turn into your mother? I mean, your love for mother should say that you don't do that.
You see, and that is where it comes, that we can both be in the same building that's burning, and we both have different reactions. We both have different experiences. I may see the glass half full, you may see the glass half empty. And it just shows that it doesn't matter how similar situations can be, each individual is complex and different at the same time. So, how some young men may internalize those experiences, they may say, I know what I saw my mother go through. I would never put another female through that. I would like my home to be a home where it is that there are values, there are morals, there are both parents in a healthy relationship, as opposed to just abandoning my child or being in a relationship but there is domestic violence, being in a relationship where it is unhealthy, there is a lot of cursing and fighting and a lot of toxicity, you know. So at the end of the day, it goes both ways. So no two persons can experience the same thing and come out the same way. But at the end of the day, it comes right back to you. What do you want for yourself? And at Child Protection Authority, I know you asked earlier, what do we have in place for that? Now, we do work along with families. We do work along with the clientele that is referred to us. And one of the things that we really try to do is, after the initial assessment, when we identify some of these challenges and some of the past unresolved traumas, we try our best to encourage these persons to go through counseling. We encourage persons to go through counseling so that they can deal with their past traumas, so that at the end of the day, my traumas have been addressed, so I can then go out in society with a different value system. Let me ask you,
do you see the trauma? Do they see the trauma? Because the only way for counseling to work is for one to accept that I have an issue. Are they seeing their upbringing and their experiences as impacting negatively on the way they view life?
Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And there are times, especially in cases where it is that persons are reluctant to identify or acknowledge that I have this issue, that is when we have to make the decision to do extensive work and extensive intervention, so that we can hold their hand and assist them to bring them to that place to see, okay, these are the decisions. And sometimes you really have to work along with persons. And because social work, as I said, and even in dealing with these issues in general, you have to have a heart for it, because you will be dealing with persons and sometimes after 2 and 3 hours they may say, I am fine. But based on what they would have said, you know that they're not fine. But you give them that listening ear. And sometimes initially they're not willing to open, or sometimes they don't open at all. If it is, you realize that, okay, I cannot help this person, but that person needs help, you refer. Because sometimes a referral can be what it is that they need. And we work along with various agencies, very closely with the RGPF. We work along closely with the Ministry of Social Development, Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. You know, even when we go in cases where there are domestic violence, or even the teenage guys themselves and the girls with intimate partner violence, we refer them to cases like the Man-to-Man program and different programs that would actually help them address those traumas and see what it is that their behaviors are causing.
Okay, and we'll get more into what is being done in order to assist these individuals. But listeners and viewers, it is time for a first break, so we'll be right back and getting more into this matter.
Have You heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue, available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
Are you looking for a reliable, affordable, and customer-friendly pharmacy? Look no further than Hills and Valley Pharmacy, the nation's leading healthcare products and services provider. We are committed to serving you at convenient locations. Find an extensive and affordable selection of prescription and over-the-counter drugs and medical supplies at Church Street, Hillsborough, Carriacou, Jubilee Street, Grenville, St. Andrew, near the bus terminal, and Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George. Our committed team is always available to offer valuable assistance for managing your health and wellness. Discover the additional benefits of our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street and our Medcare Center on Grenville Street, where we provide in-house physiotherapy, massage therapy, doctor consultations, and eye care services. Our commitment is to satisfy all your healthcare needs, including competitive prices, loyalty rewards, and special discounts for seniors. Contact us at 435-6904 and WhatsApp 535-4734. Choose Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Remember, your health is our business.
It's the event you won't want to miss. GIDC Business Deals Day is happening on Saturday, October 12th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Frequenty Industrial Park Plainfield. Explore the latest products and service offerings from businesses within the industrial parks. Enjoy discounts on GIDC business support services and get fantastic deals on household items, building materials, accessories, condiments, and more, with exciting prizes up for grabs throughout the day. But that's not all. Dive into a mini health fair and career expo for valuable health education and employment opportunities, all while enjoying the sounds of Trio the Band and DJ Graphic Sounds. It will be a fun-filled day filled with eats, drinks, games, deals, and more. Mark your calendars and join the GIDC at Frequenty Industrial Park Plainfield on Saturday, October 12th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. See you there.
Viewers and listeners, we're taking on the challenges of missing teens and child abuse. Inspector, just before we left off, I know you had something to add holding these young men accountable.
Yes, another remedy that is available is for mothers to hold fathers accountable through the court system, maintenance court, as it is called, where a case would be heard before a magistrate. The magistrate would assess and evaluate the case made by the mother and would award compensation, financial compensation, based on the scenario given. This is a remedy, unfortunately, that some mothers aren't willing.
But why is that? Because, you know, you hear the term, I don't want to have nothing to do with this man. and therefore you're not going to quote unquote bring him up.
Yeah.
But then you're in trouble, the child is in trouble, and he's there free to roam and repeat the same type of behaviors.
And my take on this is that if that's the way we can hold him accountable, then let's use the means that is necessary. And you would hear many stories of persons who will tell you, oh, I've been down that road and I don't think it worked in my favor. But my thing is, you won't know unless you try. And every case will be taken on its merit. Who tells you that your case isn't a stronger case maybe than the person who tried before you?
Right.
You know, so I encourage persons, if that's the way we could hold them accountable, they have to be held accountable. You did the act, the child is your child, and unless you could prove otherwise, then you have to be able, you have to take care of this child by any means necessary.
A lifetime of maintenance. So probably if you have doubts, do a DNA test.
Yes, we're in that era as well.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
yeah, so I believe that they should be held accountable. We have too many young men walking around and not being held accountable for their actions, and I think this is something that persons must take into consideration. As police as well, we try to, when persons make such claims, we try to see if we could negotiate, you know, sometimes to see if we could get the young men to understand, you know, that this is a responsibility that you have, and you don't have to be this girl's lover anymore. Some of them break up now even before the child is born.
Right.
You don't have to be her lover, you don't have to be her best friend, but for the sake of this human life that you have brought into this world, you need to have at least an amicable relationship where you can say, I will hold baby this weekend, or I'm coming to drop some things or something. You have to have some kind of amicable relationship at least for the sake.
You know, they're waiting until the child passes CPA to say, that's my daughter.
I know.
She come fifth in the island.
For the sake, and I don't want to keep saying child because it's a human life. It's a human life that you have brought into the world.
If we are to get back to some of the causes, and based on the statistics that you might be aware of, is there a high correlation between the runaway teens and sexual abuse or abuse in general?
I would say yes, and I would say no to an extent, and I'll tell you why. Peer pressure. Peer pressure is something that plays a huge role, especially when it comes to the repeat, because we do have the repeat ones, those who do it over and over again. And sometimes, yes, it's about sex, but not necessarily sexual abuse.
So we're talking now, because first of all, we're talking a child.
Yes.
And if we're talking a child, they're not of age, right? So straight off. But I'm speaking now, running away because of abuse or sexual abuse at the home, the primary domicile of the child.
Okay, at the home. In some cases, yes.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that it is I wouldn't say that it's a major concern.
Okay.
Not a major concern. Yes, we have cases where children are running away from the monsters in their homes, but in some of the cases too,
they're running too. And this run too, typically, is it someone of a similar age, or are they being lured by an adult and enticed?
In some cases, it's a similar age. In other cases, it's adults who believe that these children are vulnerable, who realize that some of them do not have everything that they need to get by, and they're able to provide that for them. In some cases, they offer to that child the love and comfort, and so that they believe that they're lacking. They get the child to trust them. They get the child to believe, and we call that grooming. They get the child to believe that, you know, I can be a daddy to you. I can be an uncle. I could be that person that, you know, you can depend on for the things that you need. So you don't have to bother with this little boy in the school. You don't have to bother with anybody else. I can do that for you. And it ends up in child abuse, child sexual abuse.
What is happens when these children are found? And quite often, from what we said earlier, there is a voluntary departure from the home, by and large. It's not an abduction.
Yes.
So I use found within inverted commas. But what is the protocol of the RGPF when these children are found?
We work along with the Child Protection Authority and the other agencies, but a thorough investigation must be completed. The medical examinations are done, the statements are recorded. You know, the investigations must happen to first verify the child's story too, whether or not what the child is telling you is the truth or it is not the truth. Some of them tend to lie about the circumstances of their living home and things like that. So all these things have to be verified. So an investigation is done in collaboration with the other agencies that I spoke about. So if it is a case where the Child Protection Authority may have to do a removal or something like that, then they're right there to step in to do what they have to do. But an investigation is carried out, definitely. It may take a period of time to get everything done, but an investigation is carried out. And if it is found that the child has been sexually abused, then the perpetrator will be arrested and charged.
Okay. Sabrina, what options are available to these children? I'm overwhelmed at home. What options are available?
Okay. Those that are overwhelmed at home, okay. Because as Inspector rightly stated, we have those that are voluntarily leaving and those that are leaving because they're forced to based on their circumstances. Once that case becomes available to us and we start working that case, we try our best to hear from the children what is going on, what is causing you to leave home, what are the contributing factors to that behavior. And after we would have had those conversations, we do a thorough investigation into those concerns. So we engage a family, we engage a community, we engage the school, and sometimes persons may say they don't see us doing that. But we would not go out there for everyone to know that we're investigating this particular situation because we're bound by confidentiality. And we have to ensure that while in our process to help, we are also not doing any harm to the children. And in that process, sometimes based on the initial assessment and the investigation that is done, we may see the need for alternative placement, and we would explore family options, whether it is that there may be another parent if the child is not living in a two-parent household. We try the option of extended family members under the kinship care, and if that also fails, because in some cases they do fail, and there are also cases where it is that the children, they go missing, and when they return home, the parents are saying that they do not want them back, and they would want that the state to take up that role into raising the child. And despite sometimes we're in those homes, and the officer can attest to that, and it's not under pleasant circumstances, that we have to encourage the parents to reconsider. Look at try to go back to the drawing book, have a conversation with your child, because when you look at some of the relationships that is shared between the parent and the child, it's not a healthy relationship, and it's usually met with disrespect, and that is what is seen. But what is causing those behaviors? And also there is a reluctance from the parents as well in the helping process. So we would recommend, okay, the children go through therapeutic intervention, have counseling to address some of those unresolved trauma, help them make better decisions.
Let me ask you this. We see teenage girls in the news. Are only girls running away?
No. We have cases, the prevalence is females, but there are cases where there are males and teenage boys that do run away from time to time. However, there is a prevalence of the females.
Is it a prevalence of females or a prevalence of reporting females?
Reporting females.
Okay. Okay.
Reporting female, because there are some cases that are not reported, and sometimes we become aware. Let's say it's a case that we have at the authority and we're actively working on that case, or sometimes we go to the school and the school bring those cases to our awareness that the child has not been to school for the past 2 weeks. Since school opened, they haven't seen that child, and then we will start our investigation only to find out that the child is living in a different address, is not living with family members and is being cohabitating with an adult male or adult female in some cases. So the cases do vary, but at the end of the day, we really and truly try to, once we find them, try to help them address those.
So it's societal. We have a problem in that if a girl is run away, we report. But if a boy not coming home and he on the blocks, he stop, go to school, etc., we are not as quick to report. Is that what I'm hearing?
It does happen. It does happen. There are cases where it is that parents or guardians will come forward when it comes to cases with the boys. But as you said, they are reluctant because they probably don't do it with their friends, and when you're ready to come home, you'll come home. So in terms of our alarm system going off, as it regards to the safety of boys, it is delayed compared to our reaction towards a female.
And boys are faced with the same challenges in terms of abuse and even sexual abuse.
Of course.
And what resources are available to those affected by child sexual abuse?
To those affected by child sexual abuse, it's a complex case. So if in the situation the perpetrator resides in the home, as I said earlier, we try to find alternative placement that's a safe environment, and that can be under the kinship care, be it foster care, where we have registered foster carers that open their home and they accept to raise and help the state in raising these children. And we also do have the residential placement. We also have the counseling sessions available, where it is that we encourage this person, because counseling is something that is voluntary. So we do try to encourage these young persons to seek counseling. Most of them are open to it. Some they're not open to it initially, but we try to encourage them, try first and see how we go. So initially they're open. We also have been partnering with under the Ministry of Social Development with the probation department, where it is that they have mentorship programs going on. I am also working along with Child Protection Authority. We work along with the RGPF. I know there is a program that recently started, and we have seen a lot of boys being registered under that program. That is the Granroy Police Station. Corporal St. Paul, who is attached there, he has this program where it is that he has a lot of young boys and girls, but the population is higher among the young boys, where they have afternoon sessions, teach them about cyberbullying, gang violence, and all those different things. So we try to be creative in our interventions.
How would you respond to the observation or accusation, you'll tell me which one it is, that the Child Protection Authority is more reactive than proactive in addressing these issues?
Okay. So I would say that in some cases, we do need improvement. To say that any organization that exists out here is perfect, it would be a blatant lie. Because at the end of the day, we are working in the best interest and the greatest good of each child. And as the situation grows and as challenges become complex, we have to increase our response. We have to increase our creativity in terms of how we help prevent those situations. So we do have preventative mechanisms. We try our best to do PTA meetings. So we do presentation at PTAs. We go to schools. We try our best to do media outreach like this one. Thank you for the invitation. We try our best to do media outreach, to educate persons. Because oftentimes, I would say that Child Protection Authority is an organization that is misunderstood, because everything that Child Protection Authority does, it is guided by the Child Protection and Adoption Act of Grenada, and that act was established in 2010. And a lot of persons are still today unfamiliar of the act, and this is one of the challenges that we face. Everything we do, from reporting a case to the closure of a case to everything that happens in between, it is addressed and identified in the act. So we operate under procedural laws. So once we get a report, we act upon it. And in cases where it is that we do removals, in cases where it is that we do interventions, in cases of let's say there is domestic violence, refer to the domestic violence unit. In cases where it is that the children, there are low socioeconomic standards, there is low financing in the home, the children hardly attend school, we liaise with the truancy department, we liaise with housing for assistance. So we do work along closely with a lot of agencies, but in terms of proactivity, we try our best to get the message out there and let persons educate themselves on the act.
And it is important that, you know, people are aware of what facilities and accommodations are there to assist. And you can certainly join us, 440-1252, that's our number. But Inspector, I must ask you, you guys were in the news recently. You had one of your own being charged with 10 counts of incest and child abuse. And unfortunately, this is not the first time, not the second time that a police officer has been charged. How can this happen? How can a member of the RGPF be a perpetuator of this type of crime on the children?
Is it okay if I say I don't know?
You can say that and then develop on the I don't know. So you can't stop at I don't know.
It is one of the things that I think amazes me, and maybe I don't even know if it's to say shock or, you know, it's just something that you never conceive. But then again, when you think about the fact that you, and my colleague here has been speaking a lot about past trauma and things that people have not dealt with in their lives, and there are so many complexities out there. And I don't think that we can put our finger on one thing and say, because police officers are exposed to such and such, or because they're police officers, then they have a proclivity for. I don't think so, because the persons who do those things are in the minority.
Okay. Let me just do this, because I was reading a news article and I just want to make sure I get it right. An officer was quoted in the media as saying, "I'm really shocked that this thing happened to him of all persons." Forgive my surprise, because last time I looked at the case, what happened was to the children, not to the officer. But here you have what was described as a middle rank officer saying that they're surprised at what happened to their fellow officer. Is this part of the culture of the RGPF, the culture of our society, that we don't see the abuse on the child, but rather what has happened and the embarrassment to the adult when caught?
I believe it's shared. There are some members, I know there are many members of the RGPF who are very sympathetic toward the child. Lots of persons in society are sympathetic toward the child. But of course, you would always have the dissenters, those who prefer to look at the case from the next angle. What does it do? What does it do for this individual? But then you have to remember, this is an adult who perpetuated a crime against a child. And while, yes, there may be circumstances that person may want to use to make it look as though he is a victim in this situation, according to law, according to the crime that has been perpetuated. And then again, we have to be guarded and guided, because a man is innocent until he is proven guilty in a court of law. So even all the comments and so that are being spewed out there, we have to be guided and guarded at the same time. But I don't believe it's RGPF culture that we shift the blame and we make it look as though the officer is the victim. We all know who is the victim in this situation. And we're never happy when something like that happens within the ranks of the RGPF, and it is not something that is treated lightly. You should see the comments that are made by fellow colleagues about how heartbroken and how embarrassing it is for them as police officers to have to bear the brunt of this, but also how deeply saddened they are by what this child has to be dealing with at this time in her life.
Okay. Resources for the CPA. if you are, and I like, normally this is in closing comments, I get people to give their wish list, but you can get to go early. So while, we know callers will call in and share their views on this topic, but are you sufficiently equipped as a Child Protection Authority to do the type of work that is required from your knowledge out there?
That's a very interesting question. I would say we are not. On a daily basis, we try our best with what is given to do the best that we can. And in working along with the families throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique, because we do have branches in Carriacou, given the limited amount of resources, especially when it comes to the counseling department, because we have so many children that are in counseling, and we do increase on our human resource. In fact, we increased recently. But as we increase...
Tell us a little bit about the setup in terms of the authority.
Okay. So Child Protection Authority, we have various departments, right? We have the investigation unit. That is the unit that goes out to do investigation once the referral is made. So we have intake process, that is where the report comes in. We have the investigation department, that is where we go out, we investigate those cases, and based on that investigation, we may pass on the case to a different department. We have the family support unit, where it is that based on initial assessment, we may find that the children may need counseling, the family may need to refer to other agencies for assistance, and the family support unit assists in that area. We have the alternative care department. These are the persons that work along with children that, as the name says, alternative care.
Right.
So these are children under the kinship care, the foster care, and residential facility. We have the public relation department that has been very active on social media, always putting out different brochures and posts on Facebook to educate and alert persons and encourage them to report, and just basically daily tips. So we do have that functioning at Child Protection. We have our branch at Calivini. We have 2 offices in St. George's. We have an office in Grenville, and we have another office in Carriacou.
Okay. How are you financed?
We're financed. Our parent body is the Ministry of Social Development. So although we are a statutory body, we are under the umbrella of the Ministry of Social Development. That is who we answer to. So most of, if not all of our fundings for various projects and programs and assisting families come from that department. So we are in abstract under the government, but as a statutory body.
Okay. And how can citizens assist? You smiled when I asked in terms of the resources and your needs. You smiled again and asked how you're financed. So how can the citizens assist the work of the CPA?
We do receive assistance in terms of items. So let's say we receive assistance in terms of grocery items, because we do have, sometimes we have families, we go into the homes and they do not have groceries. And sometimes, if not most of the times, we take out money from our pockets to assist when resources are limited. So we do accept
which means that you're all highly paid, and that's why you can be doing this.
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's called Pennywise. So
okay,
we
go
do
ahead.
try. We do understand what it's like to not have. So when we go into homes and we see how some families are struggling, we try our best, despite the little that we have, to extend. We also accept assistance in terms of clothing and also funding. We really would appreciate funding as well, because we have lots of projects that we would try to have on the ground going. October is here,
right.
And we're in the month of the child. And sometimes it seems like only in October we hear in abuse cases, but we really do try our best with the limited resources that we have. But once anyone is willing to assist, we receive the assistance.
Okay. Just the work of RGPF, how can the public support you better?
One of the first things I would say, I don't know how we're going to fix this as a society, but I totally agree that our public needs to educate themselves first of all. get to know what's happening, get to know what the RGPF is all about, get to know. That's why, again, too, we have a department like the one I work with where we do public education and sensitization. A lot of people become victims because they're not aware, they don't know. And I like to speak about that in relation to children in particular. So an adult may do certain things to you, but because you don't know that it's wrong, you allow it because it's being done by an adult. So we need our population to become more educated about the things that affect them. So parents need to be educated and pass it on to their children. It should become a practice in our households where there is that education happening, informally, formally if you want to, but that education needs to happen. And how else? We're a small force, so we need people to be our ears and our eyes out there when we are not there. We cannot be in every space, we cannot be in every corner at every time. And of course, I must pause here to say thank you very much to the members of the public who continue to do that, who continue to be vigilant, and who continue to call, who continue to say, I think something suspicious is happening here with this child. We need more persons, though, to be brave. We need more persons to do that as much as you can. Understanding, too, that it could be your child in a situation, it could be your grandchild.
Okay. We have our first caller online. Good evening, caller, and welcome. Good evening, caller. Go ahead. Oh, it seemed as though we lost that caller. Yeah, but you can finish the thought.
So the general public too can assist by partnering with us. Whenever we're doing initiatives, we're doing projects that assist, whether it's just like the Child Protection Authority, we run projects too that involves empowering our children and helping our children. Assist us in whatever way you can. When we come to your community with a certain campaign, come on board and work with us.
Okay. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. And listen and respond via the telephone, not
Good
your
evening.
television.
Are you hearing
please.
me?
We're hearing you, but listen and speak to the telephone, not your television.
Okay. So I am very concerned. I think this is a very important topic. It is one that is of grave concern to me and the number of citizens in Grenada. One of the things I found very alarming is that you have posters all over Grenada saying, break the silence, speak up. If you know of abuse taking place, report it. But my concern is that when the reports are being made, the inconsistency of actions that are being taken by the relevant authorities, including the police themselves. I mean, I have had experiences where I know that some persons are actually being punished for speaking out by CPA. You have a number of children placed in our homes. Father Malagan home, you have the home down at Calais, and I have the evidence. These children have been abused sexually by the elder boys who was gang members. And when the individuals cry out, when the young boys say, I feel like killing myself, they said that the perpetrator say that the boy agreed. Well, why would he report? Why would he want to kill himself? And I have had a principal even report of a young child who was taken by someone who couldn't focus in class, and when they did investigation, the child confessed to have been sexually abused. In fact, in addition to that, we have some cases where, depending on who the abuser is, the matter is being thrown under concrete, not under any rug these days, under concrete and covered. And I am very, very concerned about the plight of our vulnerable children. You have people going around our basketball courts and luring the unsuspected, vulnerable boys into giving them gadgets that they know they will need in order to lure them into sexual relations. In fact, a coach has taken photos. I have some photos. But who do you go to? Who can you trust? Which authority can you trust to give that information to without having a backlash? In some cases, even parents telling the children, if you call the man name, you will get something from us. Don't call the man name. Don't spoil the man name. In Grenada.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a lot there. Let's start off with there's evidence. Who do you go to?
Well, of course, every case is treated on its own merit. Of course, you can come to the police. Of course, we would partner with the Child Protection Authority if we need to. Well, not if we need to. In every case of child abuse, we will partner with the Child Protection Authority. I understand that some people have their own reasons why they may not want to come forward. Some people may have had certain experiences in the past that did not, in their opinion, turn out well. But I am saying here that it is better to report the matter and let the processes that have to happen than to keep the information and an abuse situation continues to happen. So you say report the matter, yes. Take the name of who you're reporting to, exactly. And if nothing happens, then you report the report. You're able to hold somebody accountable. Right. My office, unfortunately, we have to deal with those matters as well, where you believe that the police did not deal with your matter, whatever the case may be. Our department is responsible for investigating such matters. Okay. So I say, do what is the correct thing to do. Okay. Inform the authority, make the report, and then if, of course, you believe that it has not been dealt with in the way you want it to be dealt with, and that's the next thing again, we're talking about education. Sometimes people don't understand processes, they don't understand investigations, they don't understand how things are supposed to happen. But because it didn't happen the way they wanted it to happen, they believe that it was not handled properly. Okay. So you have, report it. If a child is being abused, there is no need to stay silent about it. Allow the abuse to continue because you believe that it would not be handled properly by the relevant authority. Okay, no problem. It is time for our final break, but we'll be right back, and then we'll be discussing some of the bad behaviors of adults in luring children and how we can break that cycle.
Community Partnership Initiative.
The theme for the science fair is water and energy strategies, the key to sustainable development. It encourages students, it promotes caring for the environment, sustainable development, and we want the students to display practical activities and real-life situations of what is really going on out in their environment. And we look forward to companies like Grenlec continuing to see the relevance and significance of something like a national science fair.
Grenlec, energizing our community.
Make home yours every day with Courts. Everything you want. Make home yours anytime with Courts. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, oh, oh. Get value for your money. Oh, oh, oh. Courts have the best quality. Home is what you make it. Best prices and good credit. Oh, Courts have it all. Oh, yeah. Home is what you make it. Top brands, you're sure to get it all. Courts have it all.
Courts has what you need to make home yours. You can get it all with easy payment plans using Courts Ready Finance. Courts, make home yours.
As we get ready to give thanks, the long Thanksgiving weekend. Legends Promotions presents the 18th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Saturday, October 26th, Grenada Trade Center at 7:30 p.m. Featuring the 1980 Calypso Monarch, Survivor. Together with Stubbles, 10 times Calypso Monarch, Scholar. Alongside Luther, Tobago Crusoe, and 7 times Soca, and 10 times Road March King, Super Blue. Super Blue. Tickets cost $60 and are available at all Gittins Healthcare Pharmacies, Wall Street, Grenville, and Guelph, Springs Shopping Center, St. David's Pharmacy, Clear Vision Eye Care Center, on the Carinage, and Gittins Pharmacy, St. George's. It's the 18th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Saturday, October 26th, Thanksgiving weekend, Grenada Trade Center, 7:30 p.m. You can't afford to miss this one.
Where are you come out? Where are you from? How was leave free promotion? It is on budget. Somebody send out the warning.
Spend $50 or more at any Hubbard's department or participating outlets for a chance to win free fuel, free drinks, free prizes, free property and vehicular insurance, free Hub TV and internet, free electricity, free coke, free water, free cooking gas, free paint supplies, free Dutch Lady milk, free passes to Sunshine promotion events for 2024, free groceries, all for 1 whole year, and every winner receives a free lunch package. But that's not all. Drive away in style in a brand new Isuzu D-Max. It sips, it doesn't guzzle. So fill out your entries and place them into the marked entry boxes. This promotion is brought to you in part by Dutch Lady, Danny, Promo, Supreme Bleach, Creative Chef, Grenlac, Floor, Salt Petroleum, Grenadian General Insurance Company Limited, Coca-Cola, Sunshine Promotion, Caribouries, Coop Bag, Sesame Spain, and Food Fear. Promotion runs from April 2nd to December 24. Terms and conditions apply.
Listeners and viewers, and we're taking on the challenges of missing teens and child abuse. Sabrina, how can we better empower teens to recognize and report situations that may put them at risk?
I believe, and at Child Protection Authority, we believe that education is the best empowerment. And it is important that on the family level, the school level, and on the society level, that you educate children. Let them know their rights. Let them know some of the places that they shouldn't be. Educate them on some of the consequences of behaviors, choices. What are some of the alarms to look out for? When was the last time did you teach your children stranger danger? When was the last time you taught your children good touch, bad touch? How do you prepare your children for school? How do you prepare them for society?
But how do you prepare the adults? Because a lot of these behaviors are learned behaviors. Yes. As we said, the children quite often are not being abducted. Mm-hmm. They are running to bad situations in some instances. But the learned behavior is the 2-piece and fries and a top-up gets me things, and that's the bartering. I give you a cell phone, and in exchange of the cell phone, if they see this in the home, then they practice it at a different level. You also mentioned that some parents are encouraging their children to go get things to bring home. How do we break that cycle?
Mm-hmm. We may not be able to break everything, but what I can say though, for parents that encourage their children, we try to parents, at the end of the day, it is your responsibility. It is your responsibility to raise that child that you brought forth into this world. That is your responsibility. You have a right to protect that child. You have a right to ensure that that child is not just safe physically, but emotionally, psychologically, financially. You have that responsibility. And oftentimes, we do understand that it's frustrating because when a parent makes a child, you don't get a manual like when you buy a fridge. You're not told, you're not given a black and white print as these are the steps to take, and if this ain't work, you go to this. You don't get that. So we do understand that there is a trial and error phase, but at the end of the day, parents need to task themselves to evolve. As your child evolves, you evolve. Let me
ask yourself as well. Let me ask this, because the reality is, I know that early on this this year, end of January, there was a raise in the minimum wage to $1,200 or thereabouts. The reality, if mom has 3 children and working for that minimum wage, she's a single mother with no support from the male figures who got her impregnated. And she has other friends, and quite often multiple friends, supporting her efforts to mind her children. When a young daughter from the age 8, 9 sees this behavior, isn't this normalized? And if it is normalized, then that will be the practice by age 14, 15. How do we break that cycle?
It's sad. It's really sad. And it's part of the job that it's very painful to watch. Because sometimes you see those breakdowns in the family and you see those breakdowns in society because you have the neighbors, they speak about it. But no one does anything about it. And it is sad and it's much challenging because when this child normalizes that behavior and internalizes that to be acceptable because of my situation, then it's even harder for persons in positions and in the various agencies to try their best to work on these children.
We have a caller online. Good evening, caller, and welcome.
Good night. I am calling as a concerned father that has young daughters. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. We're hearing you.
Yes, you know, and the young ladies today continue the same cycle that they see at home. In the home. And sometimes mommy bring in different male friends home. So they see the pattern that 3, 4 different men come in home and sometimes mommy have children for all of them. You see, when God designed this, He designed it for man and woman. And that's the reason why that when a man go to a woman, she must check his background before she makes children for him. This whole thing starts in the home. There is no praying in the home anymore. There is no sitting as a family to talk in the home anymore. The phones, the gadgets take up all of this. And this is one of the things that the enemy cut out to do. To kill, to steal, and to destroy. When I was growing up as a little boy, there was praying at home. But today, you don't see that no more in homes. God is left out in homes today, in the midst of the family. God is left out. We don't hold to laws and principles no more. We are anyhow people. So everything that is wrong will happen to us. Unless we go right back to what was ordained for us as a people, then we'll be able to eradicate all the flaws in our society and in our homes. We need God in our homes. Everybody's talking about solutions, but the root of the problem, we need to get into it. That's only how that we're going to get this whole thing about this child abuse and all these big men leading children. And today, we are seeing the trend.
Thank you very much, caller. The idea of the family is where you bring it out and keeping, the deity central. But let me just challenge you this, and I don't know, Inspector, if you can respond. Single-parent families are not new in Grenada. And I may even argue, it might be a little bit controversial, but if you ask, at what age did your grandmother have your mother, you may find that she was very young when she had her first child. So it is not saying single parent family and therefore this is what is happening. What has changed really that has brought about the prevalence in this type of abuse that we're seeing? And as we approach October, the prevalence of incest that we see within the courts.
Someone may say to you that this is not new to, that this has been happening for generations. As a matter of fact, there was a period of time when it would appear as though incest was a normal thing, that it was okay for these relationships to happen within families, and as a matter of fact, it would be protected by the family. So this is something too that has been around for a while. But is it right? Is it legal? Is it the way to go? No, it isn't. And it was not the way to go then either. I believe what has changed is it hinges on some of what the last caller said to that thing called the family, that institution called the family has been eroded so much, so that while in the past, yes, our grandparents and so were teenagers when they had children, but what we had was a very strong extended family situation. What we had then too were morals and values that were etched into us as children. You couldn't sway from it even if you wanted to, because it was so grounded in you. The whole issue of being our neighbor's keeper and so on, that was very essential to us. And a lot of these have been eroded over the years as the world, as we progress, as we evolved. So many of our values and so have gotten swept out. And it is just okay now for any relationship to just happen.
How do we, because it's not okay to leave it alone. But we do have a caller in line. Good evening, caller. Welcome. I see as though we lost that caller. Feel free to call back. How do we stop this cycle? How do we break the cycle? How do we let parents know that, one, this is not supposed to be happening in the home, to empower the child to speak up and speak out?
I think it starts from the very beginning. What can we put in place to ensure that when a male and a female come together and they have a child, that there is shared responsibility for this child? Do we have to legislate it? Do we have to make it mandatory that when a child comes into the world that both parents take mandatory classes, just as it is mandatory for you to get your child vaccinated and all that before they go to school? Do we make it mandatory for persons to attend parenting classes and so otherwise you would face consequences according to law? Where does it start? What do we do? It's a question that all of us need to answer. Those of us who believe that we have a grasp on things, are we willing to share that information with somebody else? Are we willing to take responsibility for another child and say, listen, I don't believe this child.
We do have a caller, so let's take the caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Good evening, caller. You should be listening and speaking on the telephone, not the. So go ahead, caller. Speak through the telephone. Listen on the telephone.
Good night. Good night to your guest. The gentleman made a very important point. We have an anything goes society. We have it at all levels. In politics, we have it in communities, we have it even in our culture. So instead of us promoting things like shortening, where you could get an income, where people could enjoy the mass, people can make the uniform, we're promoting job. Anything goes. That's what our problem in society is. Anything goes. So you can go, if you're a child 5 years old, you can go and buy cigarettes, no problem. Anything goes. That's part of our problem in society. So we lost the norms and anything goes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, caller. Sabrina, anything goes. How do we break that cycle?
I think we have to start individually. one person at a time. And we also need to say to ourselves, what can I do? Because so many times we identify the problem. We're very good at seeing what the problem is, but what active role do we play in being part of the solution? We have to start holding ourselves accountable, that at the end of the day, when the day has passed, was I a hypocrite today in my actions and in my words? Because often at the times we champion causes in public places and on various platforms, but when the curtain is drawn and the camera is removed, what is our lifestyle? Can we lead by that example? And we also need to hold each other accountable. You can be in the shop and you can be present, and you're seeing that shopkeeper selling that child cigarette. You're seeing the shopkeeper selling that 10-year-old boy it's a rum and all this, and you talk about it, but you still allow that child to walk out of that supermarket and outside of that shop with the cigarette and the rum, and nothing happens. Mm-hmm. So we have to take it further than just talking. We have to put in the work. We have to take action, and we have to start now, because tomorrow is already here, and if we continue to wait for tomorrow, it may never reach. So we have to start right now and say, what can I do to make a difference? Because we can all sit and talk about all the problems that exist in society. We can talk about all the different persons in authorities and how they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But what are we doing? What role are we playing? And this is where we have to come back, because we keep talking about the societal norms and values breaking, but what are we doing to mend it? So we have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to hold each other accountable so that we can start building back our society stronger than before.
Okay. And I would ask you to speak to that child who may be tuned in, or that young adult who may be tuned in, who has the challenges that we would have identified from the beginning of this show. How do they reach out for help? What do they do? How do they recognize that this might be an inappropriate relationship and I should get out of it? And how do I do that?
Okay. So we encourage them, find a trusted adult that you can talk to. And often at the times, they may say, who do they trust? Because the persons that they would have once opened up their heart to and disclosed certain sensitive details would have discourage them or would have caused them heartache. So we encourage them to get a trusted adult that you can speak to. You can also come to the police station, go to the police station, find an officer that you trust, or request for a female officer that you may know or that the other officers may know that you can talk to. You can come to Child Protection Authority. We have offices at various places. We have in Calivini, we have in St. George's, in the tongue of St. George, we have in Grenville, we have in Carriacou. You can even reach us at our number at 435-0293. We have our Facebook page, Child Protection Authority Grenada. You can reach out to us. Let us know. Speak out. At the end of the day, sometimes they just want a listening ear. We are here for you, and I just want to encourage persons today to understand that you are not alone. It may seem like you are alone, but you are not alone. There is always somebody out there. You may not see now, but I am here tonight representing Child Protection Authority. So I encourage you to reach out to us. Let us know what is going on so that we can help you to become a better and a healthier version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Inspector, the public, in suspected case of child abuse, incest, sexual abuse, how do we go about addressing it?
Apart from all the things that Ms. Plenty has outlined in terms of the Child Protection Authority, there is also that open door in the RGPF. We encourage persons to give information. I always say, people talk about the confidentiality and all that, but there must be one police officer that you know, that you have confidence in, that you trust, that you can speak with. We also have avenues where you can give information anonymously. You don't have to say anything about yourself. You can do that through 911. We also have a hotline 444-1958. You can use that medium as well. We are on social media. We have a website. We have several email addresses where you can address an email. You can also walk into any one of our police stations or police departments, and somebody will be able to direct you with the information that you have. We have had that happen in the past. We have had successful prosecution of cases acting on information from members of the public, so we continue to encourage persons to do that.
For both of you, how do you respond to people saying, well, I report and nothing happened? I haven't seen anything, like nothing in change. How do you respond to that? Is that a fair accusation of both the CPA and the RGPF?
Fair depending on the information that the person has. Nothing may have happened that you wanted to see happen, or maybe in your mind there is a particular way that this is supposed to happen and it did not happen that way. It does not mean that nothing happened. It could be that based on our investigations, there is a different pathway that had to be taken. It could be too that the process that we had to follow does not just does not match up to what your expectations were. And there are cases too where we get information, we would seek to investigate only to meet roadblocks when it comes to the individual themselves that you're complaining on behalf of. That individual may say, I do not want the police involved in my situation, or what the person saw is not what they think they saw, or yes, I come clean, this is what happened, but I'm now saying I don't want any action, I'm recanting my story, something to that effect. So there are so many things, there are so many dynamics at play in a situation like that, so you can't just take it at face value and say nothing happened. So many things could have happened, but it just did not turn out the way that you wanted to see it turn out.
Sabrina, you can respond to that, but in your final comment, I give you an opportunity to make an appeal. So whatever you want in support of the CPA, make an appeal both to the general public as well as your line ministry and government.
Okay, so I will just address in terms of the desired outcomes by the general public. As Inspector rightfully stated, sometimes what we want is not always what we may see happening. And with Child Protection Authority, we are bound by confidentiality. So there are many times that you may make a report and you may find that I did not get any additional information after I would have made that report. Or you would have called to follow up on the case that you reported and you are not given the information that you desire. You may be told, well, we are actively working the case, and on your end, it's like the situation. So there are many times that you may many contributing factors to that, and each case has its own complexity. And with each case, we have to ensure that we investigate, and what we do is only based on that investigation. So confidentiality is one of the biggest things that we pride ourselves in ensuring that at the end of the day, we can be someone and an organization that the persons and the society and children can trust to come and disclose what is happening to them. I would also encourage the general public to be the ears, be the eyes, be present. If you see any cases of abuse, you don't have to have all the details. Report those cases. And when you're reporting, please try to ensure that you report with enough information, because often at the times one of the roadblocks that we may meet is insufficient evidence and insufficient information, because all we may hear is Jane Doe is being left unsupervised in the parish of St. George. Now we know how large the parish of St. George is, much less to find a Jane Doe at the age of 5 that is unsupervised. So we encourage the general public, report the cases, and when you're reporting the cases, at least the landmarks and names are very important. You do not have to give your name when you report a case. You have the right to say, I do not wish for my name to be disclosed, but you can also leave your number that the caseworker can call you if they need additional assistance in terms of directions to the home or how to better locate that family. We encourage persons to be your neighbor's keeper. You are out there, you see things happening, don't just report, but try to see how you can assist. Often at the times we pull out our cell phone, we post on social media, and that is it. But what do we do beyond that? We need to be more proactive. The same responsibility and accountability that we put on agencies and organizations, we need to put that on ourselves, because we have to start from somewhere. And in order to start from somewhere, we have to start from within. How can we make that change in our society? So I encourage the general public, report the cases, reach out to Child Protection Authority, and any assistance you can give, we greatly appreciate it.
Mrs. Sabrina Plenty, Inspector Maureen John, thank you ladies so very much for sharing this evening. And to you, our listeners and viewers, we certainly appreciate your giving up part of your Monday evening. As has been said over and over again, we are our brother's keeper. It is critically important that we speak out, because a developing nation, in order to grow, we must take care of our children. Thank you so very much again for joining us. And I look forward to being with you again 6 days, 22.5 hours from now. Take good care. Godspeed.